The school bus was already halfway down the road when I saw someone standing in the very back window, staring directly at me. That didn't make sense. I was supposed to be the last person left at school. It happened on the last day before summer break when I was 16. Everyone was in a rush to get home. Teachers wanted to leave just as badly as we did. Lockers slammed shut every few seconds, and the parking lot slowly emptied until the whole place felt strangely quiet. My best friend, Tyler, and I had stayed behind to finish cleaning the stage after the end-of-year awards ceremony. We volunteered because it meant getting out of class early, but by the time we finished folding chairs and carrying equipment back into storage, almost everyone had gone home. I remember checking my phone. 5:18 p.m. The last bus usually left at 5:15. "No way we missed it," Tyler said. "They always wait a couple minutes." I hoped he was right because neither of us lived close enough to walk. When we stepped outside, the parking lot looked abandoned. The teachers' cars were gone. The student pickup line was empty. Even the crossing guard signs had already been folded away. Then we heard it, the low rumble of a diesel engine. A yellow school bus rolled slowly out of the loading area. "There it is," Tyler yelled. We both started running. The driver never looked in our direction. The bus turned onto the main road without stopping. Tyler stopped, hands on his knees, trying to catch his breath. "I guess we're calling our parents." I reached for my phone. No signal. That wasn't unusual around the school. Reception had always been terrible. We walked back toward the front entrance, hoping to use the office phone. The doors were locked. I knocked. Nothing. Every hallway light inside had already been turned off except for a faint glow coming from the office. "Maybe someone's still inside," I said. We circled around the building, checking different entrances. Every door was locked. As we rounded the corner near the bus loading zone, Tyler suddenly stopped walking. "Did you hear that?" I listened. Nothing. Then, a heavy metallic clang echoed from somewhere behind the buses, like someone had dropped a toolbox. "It's probably the custodian," I said, even though I wasn't convinced. The parking area behind the gym held 6 buses lined up side by side. 5 were parked. One space was empty, the bus we'd watched leave. Tyler frowned. "I thought there were only 6 buses." "There are. So why does it still feel like one is running?" I listened again. The diesel engine hadn't disappeared. It sounded like it was idling nearby, hidden somewhere. We walked between 2 parked buses. The afternoon sunlight barely reached the narrow lane between them. It felt 10 degrees colder. The engine stopped. Instantly, the silence was almost worse. Then we heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Metal stairs creaked inside one of the buses. Someone had just climbed aboard. Tyler whispered, "Bus drivers would have gone home." Neither of us moved. A few seconds later, the folding bus door hissed open. We expected a driver. Nobody came out. The door stayed open, waiting. I don't know why, but every instinct told me not to get closer. Tyler picked up a loose rock and tossed it against the side of another bus. The loud bang echoed through the lot. Immediately, the bus door slammed shut. The engine roared to life. "What the?" Before either of us could react, the bus lurched forward. Not toward the exit, toward us. We jumped behind another parked bus as tires screeched across the pavement. The bus stopped exactly where we'd been standing. Its folding door opened again. Still no driver. Still no one stepping out. Just the sound of someone moving around inside. Then a voice. Soft, almost friendly. "You boys miss your ride?" Tyler looked at me. Neither of us answered. The voice came again. "I can take you home." Something about it felt rehearsed. Like whoever was speaking had said those words many times before. I slowly peeked through the gap between the buses. The driver's seat was empty. Nobody. The voice hadn't come from the front. Came from farther back. Somewhere inside the bus. Every hair on my arms stood up. Then I noticed something else. Mud. Fresh muddy footprints led up the bus steps, but none came back down. Someone had boarded that bus recently and stayed inside. Tyler quietly pulled out his phone. 1 bar. Just enough. He dialed 911. Before he could say a word, the call dropped. The bus engine shut off again. Silence. Then the emergency exit at the back burst open. A man climbed out. He wasn't wearing a school uniform, wasn't a driver. He wore dirty work boots, faded jeans, and a gray hoodie despite the summer heat. The second he saw us, he froze. For one long second, nobody moved. Then he started running. Not away, toward us. We bolted between the buses, slipping on loose gravel as he chased us. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten us. He just kept running. That somehow made it worse. We reached the football field and jumped the fence instead of trying to unlock the gate. Tyler scraped his leg badly, but neither of us stopped. We sprinted across the practice field toward the road where cars were finally passing. The moment we reached traffic, the man disappeared. He never followed us onto the street. A woman pulling into a gas station saw us waving and called the police. Officers searched every school bus. They searched the garages, maintenance sheds, the woods behind the athletic fields. They found the bus. They found muddy footprints inside. But they never found the man. The officers later told us the bus had been officially checked and locked nearly 40 minutes before we saw it moving. No driver had permission to use it. The security cameras covering the bus lot had stopped recording just after 5 because of what the school called a power interruption. I've never believed that explanation. A month later, one of the officers quietly admitted something he probably shouldn't have. The muddy footprints inside the bus didn't belong to just one person. There were 3 different sets. None matched any employee or any student. I graduated 2 years later. Even now, whenever I pass a parked school bus with its doors open and no driver inside, I can't stop wondering if someone is still sitting in the back, waiting for the next kids who think they just missed the last ride. The panic didn't start when the lights went out. It started when I pushed on the front entrance and realized someone had locked us inside the school. The worst part? We had already left the building once. This happened the day after my senior year officially ended. Graduation wasn't until the weekend, but classes were over, and only a handful of students came back to clean out lockers, return textbooks, and help teachers pack up their classrooms. I wasn't supposed to stay late. My English teacher had asked if I could help move a few boxes into the library because I was one of the last students still around. My friend Emma volunteered too, mostly because she needed one last recommendation letter before college. By 4:30, the school felt almost abandoned. The usual noise was gone. No locker slamming. No announcements. No students laughing down the hall. Just the hum of the air conditioning and the occasional squeak of a janitor's cart somewhere in the distance. After dropping off the last box, we walked toward the front office. The secretary smiled as she grabbed her purse. "You two heading out?" "Yeah," Emma answered. She waved. "Have a good summer." She switched off the office lights. We watched her walk out the front entrance. A few seconds later, we followed. At least, I thought we did. As we stepped onto the front sidewalk, Emma suddenly stopped. "My phone." "What?" "I left it in the library." She sighed. "Give me 30 seconds. The main entrance hadn't closed yet." We walked back inside. She jogged toward the library while I waited near the front lobby. I remember looking through the glass entrance doors. The secretary was pulling away in her car. The parking lot was almost empty. Everything looked completely normal. Then I heard it. A loud metallic clang. Tea echoed through the hallway behind me. Not close. Somewhere deeper inside the building. I figured maintenance had dropped something. Emma came jogging back, holding her phone. "Found it." We turned toward the exit. The glass doors wouldn't move. I pulled harder. Nothing. Emma frowned. "They're already locked?" I tried the emergency push bar. Still nothing. The magnetic locks had engaged. "That's weird." I knocked on the glass. The parking lot outside was empty now. The secretary had already driven away. I pulled out my phone. No service. The school had always been terrible for reception. "We'll just use the office phone," Emma said. The office was locked. Lights off. Nobody inside. We laughed nervously. At that point, it still felt like a simple mistake. Until every hallway light shut off. one after another, like dominoes. The building became strangely dark, lit only by emergency exit signs. Neither of us said anything. The silence suddenly felt wrong. Then we heard footsteps, not running, walking, slow, measured, coming from the second floor. Emma looked up toward the stairwell. Is someone still here? Probably a custodian. I wanted to believe that, but custodians pushed carts. These were just footsteps. One person, walking, stopping, walking again. We called out, "Hello!" No answer. The footsteps stopped. A few seconds later, a classroom door upstairs creaked open, then closed. Emma whispered, "Did they hear us?" I didn't answer. Something felt off. Instead of searching randomly, we headed toward the security office near the gym. Surely someone monitored the cameras after hours. The hallway leading there was completely empty. But halfway down, I noticed something lying on the floor, a school master key, attached to a blue lanyard. Emma picked it up. Should we take this to security? Before I could answer, a man's voice echoed from somewhere behind us. Hey! We both turned. Nobody. Just an empty hallway. Then the voice came again. Closer this time. You found my keys. It wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It sounded calm. Too calm. Emma quietly placed the keys back on the floor. Neither of us moved. The hallway remained empty. Then, the keys slid. Not far. Just a few inches across the polished floor. As if someone standing out of sight had pulled the lanyard. Emma grabbed my arm. We're leaving. We hurried toward the nearest emergency exit. The crash bar pushed down. The door didn't open. Chained. From the outside. I stared at it. Fire exits were never chained. Ever. Someone had secured it after school closed. My stomach dropped. That meant whoever was inside didn't want anyone getting out. We ran back through the hallway. This time, the footsteps started again. Only faster, keeping pace above us. Every turn we made, they made. Every hallway, another set of footsteps overhead. Like someone was following us through the second floor. We reached the gym entrance. The double doors were open. Inside, the lights were off except for sunlight spilling through the high windows. We crossed the basketball court. Halfway through, a metal door slammed behind us. The echo exploded through the gym. Emma screamed. I spun around. Nobody. Then another door slammed. Then another. One after another around the gym. Boom. 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 Like someone was closing every exit. We ran into the equipment hallway. At the end was the security office. The door stood slightly open. Inside, every monitor was black. No camera feeds. No staff. Just one coffee mug sitting beside a still-running desk fan. Someone had left in a hurry. Then I noticed a handwritten maintenance log on the desk. The last entry had been written 20 minutes earlier. Building cleared, locking all exterior doors. Underneath it, someone had added another line in different handwriting. Missed 2. Emma saw it too. Neither of us spoke. A loud bang echoed from the hallway outside. Heavy footsteps. This time they weren't upstairs. They were right outside the office. Slow, deliberate, stopping directly outside the door. The handle turned. Once, twice, then stopped. We held our breath. A shadow blocked the light beneath the door. Whoever it was stood there for nearly a full minute, without saying a word. Then the footsteps slowly walked away. Neither of us moved for another 30 seconds. Finally, I remembered the office window overlooked the staff parking lot. I grabbed a fire extinguisher and smashed the glass. The alarm instantly screamed through the building. Fresh air rushed inside. We climbed out onto the loading dock and dropped into the parking lot. As we ran toward the road, I looked back one last time. A man was standing behind the shattered office window, watching us. He never chased us. He never waved. He simply stood there. The police searched the entire school that evening. They found every exterior exit chained shut from the outside except the window we escaped through. No employee admitted chaining them. The security cameras had stopped recording almost an hour before we got trapped. Police never identified the man we saw. A few weeks later, our principal announced that all exterior locks throughout the school had been replaced as part of scheduled maintenance. No further explanation was ever given. I still keep my graduation photo in a frame at home. Most people notice my cap or my smile. I notice something else. Behind the glass doors of the school entrance, barely visible in the reflection, there's a figure standing in the lobby, watching the camera. No one has ever been able to tell me who it was. When I reached into my desk to grab the notebook I'd forgotten, another hand was already inside it. I jerked backward so hard I fell onto the classroom floor. By the time I looked again, the desk was empty. This happened on the last afternoon of my junior year. Classes had ended an hour earlier, and everyone was celebrating the start of summer. The hallways had been packed with students hugging goodbye, taking pictures, and making plans for the break. I wasn't thinking about any of that. I'd left behind the notebook I'd spent the entire semester filling with sketches and ideas. It wasn't worth much to anyone else, but I couldn't imagine losing it. My mom was already waiting outside, but when I texted her, she said she'd give me 10 minutes. I headed back inside through the main entrance. The front office was still open. The secretary smiled. "Forgot something?" "My notebook," she laughed. "Last day tradition." I smiled back and hurried upstairs. By then, the building felt completely different. The excitement was gone. No conversations. No locker slamming. Just rows of empty hallways stretching farther than I ever remembered. My classroom was at the end of the second floor. Room 214. The door was propped open. That struck me as odd. Every other classroom I'd passed was locked. I stepped inside. The afternoon sun poured through the windows, throwing long shadows across the rows of empty desks. My backpack was exactly where I'd left it. So was my notebook, sticking halfway out of the desk beside it. I laughed at myself. All that worry for nothing. As I reached down to grab it, something bumped against my fingers inside the desk. Felt like another hand. Cold. Rough. I yanked my arm back so fast that my chair tipped over. For a second, I just stared. The desk was empty. I convinced myself I'd touched an old jacket or maybe the metal support underneath. Neither was there. I picked up the notebook. As I turned to leave, I heard a chair scrape across the floor behind me. One slow drag. I spun around. Every chair was exactly where it had been. I waited. Nothing. I took a few more steps. Another scrape. Longer this time. Not behind me anymore. Off to the left. I looked between the rows. Still nothing. "Hello." My voice sounded strangely small. No answer. I hurried into the hallway. The silence out there was somehow even worse. I started walking toward the stairs when I noticed something strange. Every classroom door on the second floor was closed now, including room 214. I knew I'd left it open. I walked back. The handle wouldn't turn. Locked. I frowned. Had someone closed it while I was inside? That didn't make sense. I'd been alone. Then I heard movement from inside the room. Not loud. Just the faint sound of papers being shuffled. I knocked. No response. Through the narrow window in the door, I could see rows of empty desks. Nothing else. I started to walk away. That's when I heard my own backpack zipper open. I froze. My backpack was still inside the classroom. The zipper slowly opened, then closed. I stepped closer to the window. Nothing moved. The room looked completely empty. I ran downstairs to find someone. The office lights were off. The secretary was gone. The front entrance had been locked. Outside, I could see my mom's car waiting at the curb. She couldn't hear me through the glass. I pounded on the door. Nothing. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my mom. "Why did you go back upstairs?" I stared at it. I typed back, "I'm downstairs." 3 dots appeared. Then her reply, "I just saw you in the second floor window." Every muscle in my body locked up. Slowly, I looked toward the second floor. Room 214. Someone was standing inside the classroom window, perfectly still. From that distance, I couldn't make out a face, just the outline of a person. I waved. The figure didn't. Instead, It slowly stepped backward into the darkness at the back of the room. I sprinted upstairs. The hallway was empty. Room 214 was unlocked now. I threw the door open. The classroom was silent. My backpack sat on the floor where I'd left it, but the notebook was gone. I searched every desk, every cabinet. Nothing. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The whiteboard had been erased before school ended. Now, written across the middle in fresh black marker were 6 words. "You came back just like before." I stood there trying to understand what I was reading. Before I could move, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Fast. Coming toward the room. I expected a teacher. Instead, the footsteps stopped just outside the door. No knock, no voice, just breathing. Slow, steady. Someone was standing inches from the doorway. I quietly backed toward the windows. The breathing continued. Nearly a minute passed. Then, the classroom door slowly began to close by itself. Not slammed, pulled, as though someone outside was carefully pushing it shut. Just before it clicked closed, I lunged forward and shoved it open with all my strength. The hallway was empty, but at the far end, near the stairwell, I caught a glimpse of someone turning the corner. Gray hoodie, dark backpack, gone before I could even call out. I ran all the way downstairs without looking back. This time, the front doors opened. My mom was standing outside, asking why I'd taken so long. I asked her about the person she'd seen in the window. She looked confused. "I thought it was you." The police searched the school after my principal reported the message on the whiteboard. They found my notebook later that evening. Not in room 214. It was inside an old storage classroom on the 3rd floor, a floor that had been permanently closed for renovations months earlier. The notebook was sitting neatly on a desk. Inside the front cover, where I'd written my name, someone had added a sentence in handwriting that wasn't mine. "Thanks for coming back." The school claimed it was a prank. Maybe it was, but I still think about one detail they could never explain. The security cameras showed me entering room 214 that afternoon, then leaving 6 minutes later. The problem was, according to the timestamp, I walked out carrying my backpack in one hand and my notebook in the other. I never found it until the police called that night. So if I walked out with it, who left it upstairs waiting for them to find?